Hello,
Hello.
hello, Mansour.
Hello. How are you?
I'm okay. We were just at a press conference with a lot of Palestinian families who have family in Gaza. So we were trying to highlight their fears for their families. So it was pretty harrowing stuff, but I'm sure what you're going to tell me is pretty harrowing as well. Um, but at
Well,
least
thank you.
we're trying to make the government listen, you know?
Exactly. That's the goal. The goal is to try to amplify the voices from inside Gaza,
Yeah.
especially by people who can speak English, so that we can get our voices heard to the hopefully to the people making decisions in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it, Mansour. It's nice to meet you, and I'm sorry for the delay, but just things. I'm sure it's
No,
for.
no, no issues. No,
Yeah.
don't worry. Don't worry.
So, do you want to? Do you want to tell me some things?
So yeah, I mean, you can ask me the questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer whatever questions you have.
Well, I mean, I suppose if we, at the moment, maybe just to tell us where you are and
Yeah.
what the situation that you're facing and those around you are facing.
Okay. So my name is Mansour Shouman. I'm a 39-year-old Palestinian Canadian. I'm a husband of five children, and I've been married for around 20 years. Um, I'm originally from Jerusalem. I've been living in Gaza for the last 2 years. Um, I'm not a journalist by trade, um, nor do I work in the field of charity work. I'm an engineer. I have an MBA from Canadian universities. I've worked in big four consulting firms. I worked in oil and gas. Very different, from what I've been doing here the last 70 days. Um, I'm now here in Nasser Hospital in the south of Gaza Strip. We left our homes in Gaza City after being told by the IDF that the south is safe. And however, it seems that now the south is the main target of the Israeli forces. Um, because I'm in a hospital, every few minutes I see ambulances rushing out and rushing in, carrying those who have been murdered and those who are injured. I daily see cases of people that need amputations, people who lost their eyesight, people who are most angry, feeling a sense of despair and sad, especially when they lose loved ones, especially when they talk about the lack of proper nutrition, the lack of clean water. Nasser Hospital is now not only a hospital, it's like a very big refugee center. It's a very big town. It's like tent city, there are tents everywhere. And I'm in one of them, inside the maternity ward here in the hospital. Uh, 3 nights ago, this maternity ward was struck by a tank missile. And thank God it didn't explode. However, it did kill one female patient and it injured dozens of women in labor and babies. Um, it's been 74 days, and uh, and we are shocked. We are shocked by the lack of empathy, the lack of action by the world leaders. However, we are extremely, extremely uh, happy and supportive for what we are seeing from the civilians, the public all around the world. Seeing the demonstrations in the millions in cities everywhere, seeing their activity on social media, creating content, talking about the truth, against the propaganda that the other side is trying to push through, especially through the TV narrative. Hearing about the successful boycott campaigns that they are also conducting. Honestly, this is a sense of hope. Everyone here has a smartphone, and whenever we do have access to internet, despite the continuous blackout attempts, the first thing they look at is what are the different people in the world saying. So the Palestinians feel that here that feel that we are like at the tip of the spear, fighting on behalf of the free world at large. And that it's not just about Gaza or Palestine. No, it's much bigger than that.
Yeah, well, Mansour, I think that is what many of us feel here. And honestly, it begs the question about the humanity of governments across the world, whether they have any, but certainly the people across the world in growing numbers share that sense of human solidarity with the people of Gaza and the really horror that you're suffering. So you can rest assured that we will continue to advocate in every way we can on your behalf. Can I ask you just maybe, just in terms of the humanitarian situation you're now facing, and we hear word of some supplies going in, and but obviously we are aware that Israel made the barbaric decision to cut off water, electricity, food, medical supplies. So, can you tell us a little bit about that situation? I mean, how
Yeah, of
bad
course.
is the humanitarian situation that you're facing? And are any supplies getting in? I'm sure it's not enough, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
So for 16 years, Gaza has been under semi-blockade. We do not have an active port. We do not have an airport. So we don't have a seaport. We don't have an airport. We rely on two border crossings that allowed around 500 trucks every day inside of Gaza. And this was during normal times, when there wasn't what's been happening here for the last 70 days. So let's say that we're supposed to receive 500 trucks a day. Multiply that by 74 or 75, and I think that's around three. My math is terrible. Maybe around 30,000 trucks or more. Well, or no? Yeah, I have to do the math for that. So um, so 500 times 20 is 10,000. 70,000. So 5,500 times 10 is 5,000. 5,000 times 7, 35. So around 40,000 trucks. We should have had around 40,000 trucks enter Gaza during this time. However, we only had around 4,300 as per the latest count. And just so that you can understand, right now, uh, the trucks first arrive at the Egyptian side. They have to check it, and then it goes to the Israelis that filter it, right? And many times they reject some trucks, they empty some trucks and only leave 2 or 3 pallets. They leave some trucks hanging in there until the food gets expired, and then they let it come in. Uh, they let in trucks with things that we don't need, like gloves or masks or cloth linen to cover our dead. And even then, when they leave the Israelis, they go to a third party distributor, the UN. They don't go directly to the Palestinian people. So the UN takes it into their warehouses or decides what to do next with them, right? And this is like causing a lot of anger within the Palestinians here, that even the little aid that goes through is being directed by a foreign entity, right? So I'm here in Nasser Hospital. This is now the biggest active medical facility here in Gaza Strip. I've only seen around 15 trucks come in and one fuel truck. That's it. I don't know the situation in other areas, but it is very fragile when it comes to the humanitarian situation.
And so just in terms of the impact that has on the ability of the hospital to function,
Yeah.
to provide medical services for people, can you just tell us a little bit about that? And obviously the damage that has been done to the hospital. I mean, you said a tank. Is just shocking that a tank shell
Yeah.
hit the hospital. But how is this impacting on the ability of the hospital to provide services for people?
So we have to commend the resources here. I mean, the doctors, the nurses, the administrative staff. the hundreds of volunteers that are working 24/7. They have families of their own. They have lost loved ones. They have lost their homes, but they are continually working here around the clock to ensure that everyone here receives the aid that they need. Especially that we've also received hundreds of cases from the north and from other areas. We are running out of medical supplies. That's something that is happening for sure. So sometimes doctors have to make calls whether the person lives or dies, depending on the different cases that come in, because there's a lack of supplies in order to save that man or woman who was dying. If you go into Nasser Hospital, there is no place to walk. People are lying down injured or sick across the different corridors, in the waiting areas, inside the doctor's offices, inside the administrative room offices. Also inside the hospital themselves, a lot of families have taken refuge. So the hospital itself is like a very big refugee site, plus taking care of the injured. So what they did is they set up like hundreds of temporary tents around the hospital, inside the hospital, to take care of those who are injured. So you will see a lot of tents with a lot of injured people in them that they are taking care of. Gaza is in need of field hospitals. Gaza is in need of qualified doctors, nurses, medical supplies, medications, and we are also in need for the border to be open for the thousands of cases that need to leave to get urgent operations to be done so that their lives can be saved.
Can I ask you just a little, because at the press conference that I've just come from, we organized a press conference for people who are Palestinians living here or who are citizens here, but who have family in Gaza. And we heard some really heartbreaking stories of their fear for their loved ones. And one of the things that we're trying to kind of understand fully over here is about people getting in and out, and who actually decides who gets in and out. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
So the Israelis are the main deciding factor on who comes in and who comes out. The Egyptians basically execute whatever the Israelis decide. That's the reality of the situation. Um, until like into 3 or 4 weeks into the war, until they allowed people with foreign national passports to leave, and not all of them were allowed. They have to be vetted by the Israelis first. So, for example, my name and my family's name have been approved by the Israelis to leave Gaza. My wife and children have temporarily left. They are staying in the United Arab Emirates right now with other family members. I decided to stay to try to help with whatever means I can. However, I'm aware that there are thousands of other foreign nationals that have not been approved by the Israelis. Not a single Palestinian has been approved to leave. The only cases that were allowed to leave are those who have medical conditions and they've gotten special approvals. And those uh, uh, I mean, and those with certain foreign nationals, but they have to have gotten approval by the Israelis.
Yes.
So you even have cases where Egyptian nationals aren't allowed to leave. They are not able to leave to go back to Egypt from Gaza. So in terms of coming in, I haven't seen, except for two cases. I've seen a spokesman for the UNICEF come in here. I spoke to him. I forgot his name. I think his name was Brett. He was able to come in, and I saw Doctors Beyond Borders. I saw they had also people come in. But for example, journalists, other journalists, or people who want to come in and help, etc. I didn't see other cases of that. So
Okay.
so that's one. So that's one of the things we're calling for as soon as possible. In addition to a ceasefire, is to open all borders for those who want to come in or leave.
And Mansour, just excuse me, to fully sort of understand that. I mean, it makes no sense, but obviously Israel makes no sense, and you know what it does is too horrific to even describe. But why Israel has any influence at all on a border between Palestinian territory and Egypt is hard to understand, because nowhere else in the world would this be the case. That Israel, who has no right to be there, and it certainly has no right to control the borders, and I know it's imposed this brutal, murderous siege for 16 years, but how do they exercise influence over the Rafah border? I mean, are they physically present, or I'm just trying to understand that, because when we ask,
Yeah.
as we today, this morning here in Dublin, we were saying the government, the Irish government, must do more to help families who may need to get out for medical reasons or other reasons, or as you are saying, and I will relay this message, that you need people to come in who could assist with the humanitarian situation. How do we unblock this? Is it in, I mean, why do the Israelis have any influence over that border at all?
The reality of the situation is that many of the Arab countries listen to what is being conveyed to them by the U.S. administration and Israel. That's the unfortunate reality. Um, so even when Egyptian diplomats and those in power are asked, they give the same answer, it's not in our control, or they're in denial. They'll say, "No, who told you? The border is open to anyone who wants to come in or who wants to leave." So the reality is, I think it's pressures from the U.S. government on certain Arab countries like Egypt.
Okay. Because I mean, this question is important for what we do here and the pressure we put on our government.
Yes.
But I agree with what you're saying. I think it appears that many governments are not willing to stand up to the United States and make demands of the United States.
They are relying on them for financial. Yeah, like it's complicated. It's
Yeah.
complicated, unfortunately.
The just in terms of, I mean, again, I sort of know the answer to this answer, but I think it would be good for you to elaborate. I mean, the Western governments keep saying Israel should stay within the rules of international humanitarian law in their military activities, but we can see, the world can see, that clearly this is not the case. I mean, would you like to maybe just elaborate about how indiscriminate and how genocidal, all encompassing the attack is on the people of Gaza?
Ah, I mean, on the first day of the war, my local mosque was the first building to be bombed. The first day, first building to be bombed without any warning. So that killed and injured so many people. In addition to that, the second day of the war, my family and I were exposed to white phosphorus together with many others living in Gaza City. Um, Also, I'm sure you heard about the Al-Shifa hospital
Yeah.
propaganda. I mean, I mean, we have no words for what's happening. I mean, they had us all convinced that Al-Shifa was the command and control center and they had all these 3D images and graphics and the U.S. intelligence supporting them. And then when they killed all the people they killed, and the babies and the patients, and took hostages the doctors, what did they find? Nothing. They had nothing to show the world, just a bunch of lies and propaganda. I mean, I'm sure you've seen live as well, the images and videos of them bombing churches and other hospitals and civilian residential areas without warning. um, we have 1.7 million civilians that have been displaced, not living in their homes anymore, either because it was bombed to the ground or because it's not safe to be there because tanks and snipers are all around. Every day news comes in of an area that the Israeli troops were, and of a massacre that they committed against civilians in that area, women and children and elderly who are unarmed. So I do not know what kind of human rights and laws of war that they are adhering to.
Yeah.
But we've been lectured by the Western entities about human rights and democracy and gender fluidity and children, etc. But where do we see this being applied now? You know, like if I was in the West, I'll be scared about my own life, my own way of living, because these principles that I've been taught and I've been teaching my children, they might not be applied to me as well, as they are not being applied to the Palestinian people right now. So it is unfortunate, but at the same time, it forced us all, it seems, to take the red pill, to see the matrix for what it really is. Like maybe we were living in a sub reality, and now this is the reality of the situation. However, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the US and other governments reverse their policies against the Palestinian people, because similar to what happened in South Africa, history will repeat itself. And I hope that they are on the right side of history this time.
Well, Mansour, I agree. Well, I hope you know that I agree very strongly with that. And many of the people on the street and some in the political system are saying this and have been saying it for a long time. But I agree with you. I think that many people didn't see the reality, and maybe, hopefully, in this horror, are seeing the true reality of what the Israeli state is. It's dehumanization of Palestinians. It's
Yes,
apartheid. It's brutal occupation, and that the fact that it is just a colonial, murderous
yes,
entity. Um, and I hope that is changing. But obviously, it's our hearts are breaking for you there. Is there anything else that you feel that we need to be doing, saying, to try and build support and solidarity for the people in Gaza and the people in Palestine?
definitely, definitely. First, I want to thank you personally for having this interview. It's very important, uh, to have these conversations. So really appreciate it. And something that I ask people to do is we don't want people to act only based on emotions. We want them to act based on facts, something credible, history. So I asked them to read more about what Zionism is, because Zionism is not the same as Judaism. I have a lot of Jewish friends, professors, managers, mentors, colleagues who are in touch and who are fully supportive of the Palestinian cause. So please, if you want to understand why Israel is doing what they're doing, understand what Zionism is. It will explain a lot. Second thing is learn more about the history of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It didn't just start on October the 7th. Please take the time to read more into the history of what's been happening for decades. Uh, Third thing is try to learn more about Islam itself. There's been a lot of wrong perceptions happening, especially in certain media. And learning more about Islam through your local mosque or talking to fellow Muslims or reading the Quran, will help you understand why the Palestinians are behaving in the way that they are, why they are remaining steadfast, why they are optimistic, and why they are fighting, continue to fight this fight, looking for a better future, not only for themselves, but for all the free people of this world. So it's very important, I think, to learn and educate ourselves on these three topics. Second thing is don't stop demonstrating on the ground. Continue to demonstrate in large numbers, in the millions, in cities all around the world. Continue to talk to each other. Continue to physically meet and discuss. Let the world see, the impact. When we see these demonstrations, we feel uplifted. You know, um, um, you know, there's also a very big connection to the Irish and their cause, and I've learned a lot about history there and the similarities. So please continue demonstrating in large numbers. Number three, social media. Uh, the Generation Z changed the game. I was never before on TikTok or Instagram or active on any social media accounts. I thought that by appearing on Al Jazeera 25 times or other TV channels that I would have reached the global audience. But honestly, social media, I think, is the game changer here. the reach, them creating content, sharing, liking, commenting, definitely changed the narrative. Forced the TV channels to change the narrative. Forced TV stations like Fox News to have 6 interviews with people like me, trying to get their side of the story to their people. So please continue the work you're doing on social media. Continue to boycott strategically, Zionist corporations and corporations that donate to the Zionist regime despite what they're doing now. We don't have a Starbucks here in Gaza, so definitely the people boycotting Starbucks is what caused their financial numbers that were released a week ago. And I think Zara is next after their stupid ad that they put out earlier. So continue boycotting. You have a list that the PDS provides. Don't stop there. Um, Continue to donate wisely. I mean, don't just donate to any charity, talk to Palestinians that you trust, that have families on the ground here, and they can guide you to the best way to ensure that your funds reach the Palestinians in need as soon as possible. Unfortunately, with the Rafah border only letting very little aid come in, a lot of charities have the aid is stuck behind the Rafah borders. And, this is not helping anyone. So please reach out to Palestinians you trust and see how you can ensure that donations reach the Palestinians here as soon as possible. Um, Finally, make the intention of coming to Gaza, coming to Palestine soon. Soon this war will stop. Soon the borders will be open. We look forward to inviting you to our homes, to sharing a meal with you, and for you to experience the beautiful Mediterranean weather and surroundings. Gaza is very rich in history. It's like 7,000 years old. It's been a logistics capital of the world. So make the intention of coming here, and we are looking forward to having you as our guests. And if you are able to help us rebuild Gaza, then we are going to be more than happy with that. So these are the things that I think we can all work on right now in the meeting.
Mansour, listen, thank you very much. And we agree very strongly. And I think you've spelt out very clearly what people need to do and should do. And there are many, many people advocating for this kind of action, but we will continue to do so. And
thank you, Richard. I really appreciate
it. No problem. So Mansour, look, keep in touch with us and we'll keep in touch with you. And look, we send you all our wishes and solidarity and our admiration for your bravery, your personal bravery, and your resilience, and the resilience of the Palestinian people. It is inspiring in this terrible.
Richard, I honestly want to tell you something. Despite all the challenges, the people's morale here is very high. Like, please, we want to continue seeing you and the people around you positive. Like, yes, as human beings, we are sad. We have to empathize with what's happening here, but continue your positive action. Continue trying to channel your emotions into action. This is the request of the Palestinian people here. Thank you so much, Richard. Really appreciate it.
Mansour, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Hopefully we will talk again soon.
Hopefully we'll talk soon and we'll meet in person soon.
And meet in person soon.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.